Stop looking at my hoe! Hello losers and welcome outside. Today I'm going to be showing you guys my journey of creating my very own compost bin. And I know this is not a theater related topic, but guess what? I can make videos about whatever I want. So where did this all start? I've been a vegetarian and have been really into recycling for about 8 years now, but I've only been low waste for about a year and a half. What I consider to be low waste is to be throwing away as little as possible, and whenever you do throw away, it's biodegradable. And I've been pretty consistent with sticking to this low waste lifestyle. I never really use plastic, and whenever I do, I make sure it's a recyclable form of plastic, and I've also been trying to waste food less. But I think the next most obvious step for me to make on this journey was to create a compost bin. So I used to think that, oh, it doesn't matter if you're throwing away food because food is biodegradable and it's not something like plastic that's going to stay on the earth for 1,000 years. And while that is true, the food is in a plastic bag and has no actual contact with any soil. So instead of breaking down in a more environmentally friendly way, it ends up rotting, and that releases methane gas into the atmosphere. But if you take all your food scraps and you contain it in an area where it's surrounded by other natural materials, it's able to break down in a more friendly way. You're not going to have those greenhouse gases, and you also get some mineral-rich soil out of it. So the first step of composting is to make a compost bin. So let's go do that.
And so we begin our journey. Our first step was to locate our specimen for which to put compost in. Sure, I could have purchased a bin from the store, but that will be wasteful. I was determined to upcycle something from my home. However, this selection proved to be inadequate. I was fully prepared to have an army of worms after I had created my compost, so small bins just weren't going to cut it. I also needed to make sure my bin was large enough for me to stir it. Alas, my options were inadequate, and I was about to give up hope when I feasted my eyes upon my latest discovery, a black bin of the perfect size. It may or may not have been used to store a chainsaw, and where that chainsaw currently lies is my business and my business only. It had a perfect tight seal to keep out any possums trying to steal my greens. Trust me, you can never trust an animal with that thick of a tail. My favorite feature was that I could fit inside the bin. Why, you might be wondering? I am basically going to become an adopted mother to a slew of worms, and I don't want to do a bad job. Who knows, they might want their mother to read them a story before bedtime, and I want to make sure I am there for them. Now that we had located our bin, it was time to make drainage holes. When making a compost, you have to ensure there's a place for water to escape. This is easy enough when your compost bin is made out of pallets, but with the plastic container, there is no room for the water to escape. I was not about to let my worm children drown, no siree Bob, but we had a bit of an issue. The walls of the bin were thick, I say with 2 C's, and on top of that, we didn't own any power tools. Now, I was not about to pick up the latest DeWalt drill from Home Depot. What's the #1 rule of living sustainably? Don't buy stuff you don't need. And I was not about to purchase a drill that I was only going to be using once. But how in the world was I going to put holes in this thing? First, I took a hammer and pounded a nail through the plastic. I would then take a serrated knife and try to twist it through the hole until it got bigger. Finally, I would jab a screwdriver through the hole until it could get all the way through. You can tell I'm a professional. And before we go any further, let us take a second to talk about my knees. If you can't tell, my backyard is made up of gravel, so that meant my knees were going to experience the 7th layer of hell if I chose to sit on them. However, I had a genius idea. I spotted an old lifeguard rescue tube at the other side of the yard and yeeted it over to me. I set my knees on the rescue tube, and I must admit, it was very comfortable. Around this time, my family could smell the mess I was cooking and decided to come up and help me with my endeavors. They saw that my techniques were way too cumbersome and decided to give me some pointers. We determined the best method was to heat up a screw over the stove and pierce it through the plastic to create holes at a faster pace. We would then jab the screwdriver through the holes to make them bigger. This is probably a good time to mention, kids, don't try this at home. Borrow your neighbor's power tools because this process was rough.
This isn't working.
And now it's time for a compilation of all the times that my sister hit my hand with the hammer.
Right here. Oh shit! Sorry. Ow. This is so dangerous. Ow.
The final step was to set the bin on top of some old stepping stones so the water would be able to drain underneath the bin, and boom, we're done!
Alright losers, so we are done with the composting bin. I'm not going to say it was easy. It would be definitely easier if you had a drill, but you know, we got to make do with what we have. So now the next step is what actually goes inside the compost. So it's not as easy as just like throwing all your food scraps into a bin. You basically have to have a specific balance of carbon-rich materials and nitrogen-rich materials. So composters have simplified the ideas of nitrogen-rich materials and carbon-rich materials to greens and browns. So all of your nitrogen-rich materials like grass clippings, your food scraps, those are all greens, and all your carbon-rich materials like dead leaves and paper are browns. And you have to have a specific ratio of browns to greens. I've read conflicting opinions on this. Some people say you have to have a brown to green ratio of 2 to 1, and then some people say you have to have a brown to green ratio of 3 to 1. We're gonna go with 2 to 1 because I don't know. It sounds better. So basically what I mean by that is like for every 2 buckets of brown material, you need 1 bucket of green material. So we've already started collecting food scraps. We've been using this bucket and we have this under our sink. We've been putting all of our food scraps in here. And then I also have some paper shreds for work because we do a lot of paperwork and we have to shred everyone's important information. Here's a very important thing. You cannot actually recycle shredded paper. The smaller you make paper, the less recyclable it becomes. And so if you shred it all, you can't really recycle that. You can really only compost it. Now we shall create the backyard compost special. We've got our tumbler here. No need for ice. We don't need ice for this one. We're going to take 1 part delicious greens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. And then you want to take 2 parts paper shreddings for crunch. It has a bit of a sour aftertaste, but you'll get used to it. Trust me. 1, 2. And now, unfortunately, we can't give this mixture a good shake, but we're going to be using our very special stirring straw to give it a nice stir. Yummy. Paper and spinach. It looks so good. Oh, guys, I'm so sorry you can't see this. It looks great. All right. Again, no need for ice. We're just going to, instead of giving it a nice strain, we're going to give it a nice shut. And that's it. So I think I'm gonna stop there. I did want to fill it up like all the way, but we just don't have enough nitrogen materials. I think we'd have to wait until we create more food waste or until we, I don't know, mow the lawn and use the lawn clippings. Also, hair is a nitrogen-rich material, so I might just, lob all this off and donate it to the cause. We're trying to save the planet over here. I don't need my long locks. No way, I didn't need my long locks. Never mind. So this was super, super fun. If you enjoyed it, thank you for enjoying my change of content. This isn't what I usually make, but you know what? I just want to talk about the fact that I was able to put holes in this bin by lighting something on fire. Okay? Sue me. I'll be keeping you guys up to date on the compost. We shall be replenishing the amount of carbon as we get more nitrogen in there. And yeah, go out and save the earth. Don't try to recycle paper shredding. Don't try to do that. Don't use plastic. Okay, bye, losers.